You ever felt like a celebrity or an influencer truly just gets you, even though you've never met said person?
So these are called parasocial relationships, and they're changing how we connect and we cope in today's media-driven world. And understanding them could be the key to healthier emotional boundaries and better mental well-being. So here to talk all about this, Dr. Shonda Craft. Hey, good morning, Dr. Craft.
Good morning.
Yeah, let's talk about this because I think the more we are connected online, like social media online with influencers who think they're talking directly to them, it makes you feel connected to them. Can you explain exactly what these parasocial relationships are and what causes them?
Yeah, so parasocial relationships simply mean these are relationships that come alongside other social relationships that we have. And so in this case, these are one-sided emotional bonds that we form with media figures. So whether that's celebrities or influencers, athletes, sometimes even fictional characters, these are people, they don't know us personally and we don't know them, but it feels like we do because our brains kind of interpret things like people looking at the camera or, they start off their segment saying, hey guys, and it just, the way that these characters or these figures draw us in, our brains interpret it like we actually have an emotional bond with these individuals in some way.
So clearly there's a line, there's always a line, and sometimes the line can be crossed. Walk us through that. When do these relationships, when does it turn from fad into something that is actually unhealthy for people?
Yeah, well, parasocial relationships can actually be really beneficial to our mental health, right? They can be fun. They can be emotionally comforting. They can feel safe. They can feel inspiring. But when we start to feel like we're over-invested emotionally in someone that we're seeing on a screen on a daily basis, maybe it's that we are feeling really intense emotions when they don't post something or when their content changes or something happens in their personal life and the way that they are talking to us shifts. People who are starting to get into that unhealthy space are really overly emotionally invested. Sometimes we're obsessed about looking for that content, constantly checking our feeds, constantly trying to find out where this person is or what they're doing, and sometimes even crossing the line to actually trying to make physical contact with these celebrities or these media figures. Those are all signs that maybe these relationships are no longer serving a healthy function in our lives.
So I think I saw this just a little bit like when Malcolm Jamal Warner passed away. So many people saying, I never met him.
Yeah.
I don't know him.
But
I just grew up watching him. But I really feel gutted by his death. That doesn't seem to me to be necessarily a bad thing.
No, and it's not unhealthy. I mean, we know that people who we see on a regular basis, whether they're in front of us physically or, on TV or on social media, when they're sharing experiences that we have in our own lives, I think that's part of what, the Theo character was. So many people describing him as like their brother or even themselves, right? The way we see these media figures moving around the world, it can feel familiar and it can feel like we have a closeness to them. And that can translate right into feeling emotionally distraught, when someone passes away. So, that's not necessarily unhealthy. Again, it's that over obsession, that over investment emotionally that becomes a little bit problematic.
Okay, so you I realize, okay, yep, I have some of these symptoms. What do I do in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to recognize first and foremost that the connection is one-sided, right? So even if you're following someone on social media and perhaps they like you back or they tag you or something like that, they still don't really know you, right? And the investment is still very much one-sided. So being able to recognize that and kind of step back, recalibrate a little bit, maybe even setting some boundaries on your media consumption, not checking your feeds as often, not being so overly invested in what's happening with this celebrity or this media person, and maybe more importantly, investing in your own real life relationships. And we know that can be difficult, but sometimes being able to actually talk to somebody that you can see on a regular basis, maybe share that interest you have in that fictional character, that media figure as a way to bond, can actually help kind of tip those scales back into balance a bit.
I think we talked about some of the negatives of it, but there are some healthy aspects to it. What might those be?
Absolutely. I mean, again, relationships are difficult, and we know that there's a high level of anxiety and loneliness right now in our society. And so having a relationship with somebody who is on TV or on your phone is pretty low stakes. It's low risk, right? There's not a lot of conflict because it is one-sided. And so that can be a positive outcome of these kinds of relationships. And again, we can find comfort in a sense of community and belonging or even identity when we have characters or figures on our social media who are sharing their own personal experiences in ways that kind of validate what we're experiencing or open us up to ways of thinking about the world that we don't typically get to have otherwise.
I like the way you put that. Dr. Craft, thanks for the insight. Great conversation today.
Yeah, thank you both. Have a great day.
You too.